Good day, everyone. Today, the group 2 will discuss the lesson 2 topic, which is about self from sociological perspective. But before that happened, let me introduce first our group members. Truly yours, Nelvin Barranco, Lyndie, Nemie Arca, and Janice Subal. Okay, now let's proceed to the discussion of the topic. Self from sociological perspective. Okay, when we say sociological perspective, what words or concepts that come up in your mind? Okay, let me discuss it to you. When we say sociological perspective, it talks about on how society shape us, how society develop us in the way society illustrate it to us, and lastly, how each social institutions in the society such as home, school, church, and mass media affect us in every stage of our development. Here are the objectives that the learners or the students must have in the end of the lessons. First, describe and discuss the different ways by which society shape the self. Identify the influences of home, school, community, and mass media to the development of self, and examine one's self in relation to the sociological perspective. For me to be able to widen your ideas on this topic, we will have first some activity to do entitled Think Together. Try to think of your family favorite food. What is it? What do you learn from your schools and teachers? What is it? What factors did your friends or peers influence you? What is it? And lastly, what have you get from engaging in mass media? What is it? Think of it. Okay, now the abstraction about secular identity. Societies can shape the development of their members in very different ways. Each society teaches concepts, values, and accepted behaviors to each child. This construction is largely accomplished by social institutions such as home, school, church, and mass media. It explained here that in the society, it means that ourselves cannot be separated to the society. Yes, the society and the selves will always come together, and we learn more often from the social experiences. Ourselves is considered a social entity in light of the fact that the self was created by social interactions. The moment we learn the language is also the moment that we develop ourselves. Okay, let me read to you the story about John. John is a math professor at a Catholic university for more than a decade now. John has a beautiful wife whom he met in college, Joanne. Joanne was John's first and last girlfriend. Apart from being a husband, John is also blessed with doting kids, a son and a daughter. He also sometimes serves in the church, too, as a lector and a commentator. As a man of different roles, one can expect John to change and adjust his behaviors, ways, and even language, depending on his social situation. When John is in the university, he conducts himself in a manner that befits his title as a professor. As a husband, John can be intimate and touchy. Joanne considers him sweet, something that his student will never conceive him to be. His kids fear him. As a father, John can be stern. As a lecturer and commentator, on the other hand, his churchmates knew him as a guy who is calm, all smiles, and always ready to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. Okay, what do you think about the story about John? Now, I would say that the story is not familiar to us, right? However, the story about John illustrates that we ourselves play different actions different ways depending on the situation we have. Just like to John, John is considered as a man with different roles, different ways, and even language, and it's only changed depending on his social institution or environment, or to simplify, on his situation he has. Are John or we ourselves even conscious of our shifting ourselves? Are John or we ourselves being hypocritical in doing so? According to what we have tackled so far, this is not only normal, yet it is also acceptable and expected. The self is capable of morphing and shifting itself into circumstances it finds itself in. In addition of this concept about the story about John, I have still remembered the philosophy of John Locke that when we are a child, we are considered as a tabula rasa, or blank slate. It portrays that in our everyday of our life, we acquire and influence ourselves through socialization like in our family, friends, in our society, and many more. In this presentation or lesson, we want you to explore how other people or our society and our culture affects our behavior, our personality, and ultimately our perception of selves. To discuss further about the topic about George H. Mead, here is Janice Subal to discuss this slide. Okay, Janice?
George Herbert Mead. Who is George Herbert Mead? He is a sociologist from the late 1800s that is well known for his theory of the social self, which includes the concept of self, me, and I. Mead's theory of the social self is based on the perspective that the self emerges from social interactions such as observing and interacting with others, responding to others' opinions about oneself, and internalizing external opinions and internal feelings about oneself. The social aspect of self is an important distinction because other sociologists and psychologists felt that the self was based on biological factors and inherited traits. According to Mead, the self is not there from birth, but it is developed over time from social experiences and activities. According to Mead, there are three activities that develop self. These three are language, play, and games. Language develops self by allowing individuals to respond to each other through symbols, gestures, words, and sounds. While play develops self by allowing individuals to take on different roles, pretend, and express expectations of others. Play develops one's self-consciousness through role playing. And games develop self by allowing individuals to understand and adhere to the rules of the activity. Self is developed by understanding that there are rules in which one must abide by in order to win the game or be successful at an activity. This theory of myth about self has two sides or phrases, me and I. The me represents the expectations and attitudes of others or the generalized other. It has been developed by the knowledge of society and social interactions that the individual has gained. It allows the individual to express creativity and individualism and understand where to possibly bend and stretch the rules that govern. The me is considered the socialized aspect of the individual. It represents learned behaviors, attitudes, and expectations of others and of society, a phase of the self that is in the past. The I, therefore, can be considered the present and future phase of the self. It represents the individual's identity based on response to the me, or the person's individuality. The me and the I have a didactic relationship. So that is all about George Herbert Mead's theory of the social self. Let's proceed to the socialization process. You must learn the expectations of society through socialization. So what is socialization? It is a process through which people are taught to be proficient members of a society. It describes the ways that people come to understand societal norms and expectations, to accept society's beliefs, and to be aware of societal values. Socialization is different based on race, gender, and class. Socialization ensures that we have a process through which the norms and customs of society are transmitted. It teaches people what is expected of them in a particular group or situation. It is a form of social control. Socialization is a learning process that begins shortly after birth. Early childhood is the period of the most intense and the most crucial socialization. It is then that we acquire language and learn the fundamentals of our culture. It is also when much of our personality takes shape. However, we continue to be socialized throughout our lives. As we age, we enter new statuses and need to learn the appropriate roles for them. We also have experiences that teach us lessons and potentially lead us to alter our expectations, beliefs, and personality.
Topic will be the agents of socialization. Agents of socialization would be the individuals or group that basically have to be the ones who teaches you these stuffs, and it's not they have to, but these are the people or institution that you learn from. And these are family, school, peers, mass media, and religion. And it starts from family. Families introduce children to the expectations of society. Human persons learn the ways of living and therefore their selfhood by being in a family. It is what a family initiates a person to become that serves as the basis for the person's progress. Babies internalize ways and styles that they observe from their family. Internalizing behavior may either be conscious or unconscious. Table manners or ways of speaking to elders are things that are possible to teach and therefore are consciously learned by kids. One is who he is because of his family for the most part. In other words, because family is the first agents of socialization of the first group that you encountered, and they are the one who teaches you the basics like how to behave your language, values, and manners. All of these things are like kind of your first introduction to the first group of people you meet, and that are your family. Next is school. Students are not only in school to study math, reading, science, and other subjects. The manifest function of the system. Schools also serve a latent function in society by socializing children into behaviors like teamwork, following a schedule, and using textbooks. In school, teachers and other students are the source of expectations that encourage children to think and behave in particular ways. Research finds the teachers respond differently to boys than to girls, with boys receiving more of their attention. Basically, school is an institution where pupils are provided with a learning environment in the presence of teachers. It says that research finds that teachers respond differently to boys than to girls, with boys receiving more of their attention. One possible reason for the difference is related to the greater assertiveness of boys that if boys are speaking up more frequently in discussion or at other times, then a teacher may be forced to pay more attention to them. Next one is peers. A peer group is made up of people who are similar in age and social status and who share interests. Peer group socialization begins in the earliest years, such as when kids on a playground teach younger children the norms about taking turns or the rules of a game or how to shoot a basket. As children grow into teenagers, this process continues. Peer groups are important to adolescents in a new way, as they begin to develop an identity separate from their parents and exert independence. Additionally, peer groups provide their own opportunities for socialization since kids usually engage in different types of activities with their peers that they do with their families. Peer groups provide adolescents' first major socialization experience outside the realm of their families. Peer groups are friends. As a teenager at school, we make friends. In our neighbors, we make friends. When you go out to church or parties, we also make friends. All these people we interact with, we learn different things. Not only our family and school that teach us, but also friends teach us as well as the same way we teach them. This means people or children influence one another positively or negatively. This is why it is important to keep good friends to learn good things from them. Another agent of socialization is mass media. Mass media refers to the distribution of impersonal information to a wide audience via television, newspapers, radio, and the internet, with the average person spending over 4 hours a day in front of television and children averaging even more screen time. Media greatly influences social norms. Roberts, For and Rideout, 2005. People learn about objects of material culture, like new technology and transportation options, as well as non-material culture, what is true, beliefs, what is important, or values, and what is expected or norms. Television is the dominant medium, although half of all youth use a computer daily. Can you notice how children eventually become what they watch? How children can easily adapt ways of cartoon characters they are exposed to. We learn a lot of things in mass media when we watch television, we listen to the radio, we read newspapers, and even through the internet. We learn positively and negatively just like family and friends. When we say media, it comes from Latin word middle, which functions to connect people. Since mass media has a huge effect on our behavior and attitude, it contributes to the socialization process. The last agent of socialization is religion. Religion is an important avenue of socialization for many people. Like other institutions, these places teach participants how to interact with the religion's material culture, like mezuzah, a prayer rug, or a communion wafer. For some example, people, important ceremonies related to family structure, like marriage and birth, are connected to religious celebrations. Many of these institutions uphold gender norms and contribute to their enforcement through socialization. From ceremonial rites of passage that reinforce the family unit to power dynamics which reinforce gender roles, religion fosters a shared set of socialized values that are passed on through society. When we are born, we exposed to beliefs and teachings of one religion, for example, Christianity or Islam. For example, when you see a Christian, you know through the person's behavior and the kind of things they do. And those things are they learned from the religious institution. Same goes as Muslims. They learn their behavior and the things they do.
Okay, now, as what was the discussion illustrated to us, self from sociological perspective vary on the situation we have in either in our school, in either in a family, in mass media, religion, or friends. It varies and depending on the situation we had. In order for you to fully evaluate the topic, here are the reflections that you need to be answered. Write all the similarities for all stages of yourself from elementary, high school, and now in college. Write it. Write all the differences for all stages of yourself from elementary, high school, and now in college. And lastly, write at least 3 possible reasons for the differences in yourself. Okay, please write it and submit it to our groups for the checking of your answer. Okay, now, this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening and for having your all ears here. Hope you enjoy a lot and at the same time you learned. Thank you so much and keep safe always guys. Thank you.